All right, welcome everyone. Welcome to Zentangle, Making Zentangle Bookmarks with our instructor, Tomomi Galeano. Tomomi is a certified Zentangle teacher. She has been teaching Zentangle in the greater Seattle area since 2017 and has taught several classes through KCLS. I have been honored to host her in my branch. She started teaching online in 2020, and students from all over the world are regularly attending her classes via Zoom. And just once again, I want to thank Newcastle Arts Council, City of Newcastle, and For Culture for sponsoring this program. I will turn it over to Tomomi now.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you. And thank you for KCLS for hosting this class, and also Newcastle Arts Council and City of Newcastle and For Culture for sponsoring this event. I am honored to be here. And I see some familiar faces and I see lots of new faces and names. So thank you for coming this morning and spending 1 hour with me in this gorgeous sunny day here in Seattle. I don't know how the weather is in where you are. And good evening to my friends in Europe too. So thank you for joining from Europe, and for East Coast, it's a good afternoon to you. So my name is Tomomi Galeano, and I'm certified Zentangle teacher, and a lot of you know about me, and you can look up more about me online. Since this is a short program, I'm just gonna get into the good part, the hands-on drawing part. So give me a few seconds as I switch my camera. And there you go. Can you see this, Vicky?
Oh, yeah, it looks great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is kind of what we are making today. The bookmark using 5 different patterns. And I hope you already have a piece of paper that cut into rectangular shape. This is about 4.5 inches by 3 inches. And as I demonstrate different things, I'm going to talk about just a little bit about what's Zentangle, just the basic information, because we have limited time. I won't be able to get into too many details. So if you are interested in learning more about Zentangle, you can get some books from library or local bookstore, or you can contact your local certified Zentangle teacher. They I think a lot of them offer online classes, and some of them are opening up to in-person classes in your area too. So all that information you can find on Zentangle.com website. You can find your local instructor by going to Zentangle.com. And these 2 names, Rick Roberts and Maria Thomas, are the names of the founder of Zentangle method. And you can read about them on their website as well. So in Zentangle practice, this is the most important part. We're going to start with gratitude. So before we get into anything, I want you to just relax and let your expectation go, and take a moment to take a few deep breaths and relax your mind and bring your attention to something that you're grateful for. And perhaps you can thank this moment that we are together. We're creating something beautiful together. So let's just take a few deep breaths together. Deep breaths in and deep breaths out. And deep breaths in and deep breaths out. You notice how your body started to relax. And with that relaxed hand, I want you to grab your pencil. We'll start with pencil. And on this paper that you have, I want you to draw 5 little pebbles. We're going to fill inside of 5 pebbles with different patterns. Now keep in mind, if you are making bookmark that's gonna look like this, you wanna save a little room at the top for you to add a punch hole and a ribbon later. But if you are just using the card like this, you don't have to save any room. Just take a moment to look at your paper and figure out how you want to stack your 5 rocks. You want them to look stable. So your bottom one's gonna be the biggest one, right? And the bottom one, you probably want to have some kind of really nice, stable, almost straight line so that your rock will look stable. And you can turn your paper any way you want to make this process easy for you. Maybe it's easier for you to draw this direction, diagonal. I always draw my line diagonal. Don't ask me why, but that's the direction I like to do. Just draw nice little pebble, the first one. And you see how I'm using really nice, gentle touch. I'm not adding any strong pressure. You can barely see these lines. And add a second rock, a little smaller, and a third rock, perhaps even a little more smaller. And keep adding till you have all 5 rocks. And mind you, this is done in pencil. So if you don't like the shape, you can always go back and just sculpt your shape here and there. Traditionally in Zentangle, we don't encourage the use of eraser, but this is a bookmark class that we're doing today. So I want you to have the bookmark that you feel you are happy with, that you are going to use, and perhaps you are going to give to somebody. So just sculpt your rock here and there to make them look nice and smooth. Perhaps your rocks are flatter or wider. Everybody draws this differently. And once you have all these pencil drawn rocks, we're going to switch to a pen. I'm using a black pen. These are my micron pens that has pretty thin tip. This is a felt tip. This is a micron 01. Or if you have any kind of plastic nib pen like this, that works too. If you are using ball-pointed pen, that's fine too, but that's probably not the best choice. You want to use something that has a little softer tip than ballpoint. So in each rock, we're going to add different tangles. So when I say tangles, that simply means pattern. So in Zentangle, it's a word of made up word. Zentangle is a made up word. Zen and tangle. So tangle simply means pattern. So whenever I said tangle, that means pattern. So we're gonna learn 5 tangles today for each rock. And we're gonna draw everything moving forward with pen. So there's no erasing. And this is the most important thing I want you to take with you today. In Zentangle, there is no mistake. So whatever you do is as beautiful as it is. But because we're doing with this process with pen, just be mindful of each line that you are adding. No need to rush. Just take your time to make your line the best line you can each time. So we're going to start with the biggest rock. So somewhere inside this pencil line, I want you to add perhaps a little angle. nice gentle line like this. It's not quite straight. It's not like too curvy. I didn't force anything. It's just a nice relaxed line. And then on this line, I'm gonna add a little bump like this. It doesn't matter how big these bumps are. And once I add a little bump, I'm gonna fill inside of this space with my black ink. And then once you have filled this black space, I'm gonna add a line that mimics this shape. So this is called auraing. I just added aura to this shape. And then I'll add another bump somewhere. And once I add bump, I'm gonna fill inside. Keep in mind, there's no mistake. Whatever you just did is just fine. And then you add another line that mimics the shape that you have. And just continue adding a bump or two. Each time you add bump, you fill inside. And then you can also add a little bump at the very end, like very edge, where it's touching the pencil. It really doesn't matter where you add these bumps, just keep going. And each time you add this beautiful bump, the shape of your line changes a little bit. So you're letting your pen guide you instead of you dictating the direction of this drawing is going. So you don't have to overthink. All you are doing is one line, one bump each time. And perhaps if you feel like, oh, maybe I have too many bumps, you can skip and just add a line without adding any bump. That's fine too. There's no rule that you have to alternate. We're still staying inside this pencil drawn rock. So everything you're doing today is going to stay inside this pencil border, pencil drawn line. And if you're going slower than I am or faster than I am, that's fine too. Because this is just repeating, so you know exactly what you're gonna have to do, right? And once you came all the way to one edge, one side, I want you to continue the same pattern, same process, all the way going to opposite direction. But when you do, it's probably easier if you turn your paper upside down and continue moving to the same direction that you were doing. So just one line, add a few bumps here and there. And depending on how big your paper is and how thick your pen tip is. This may take a little bit more time, or it may go really fast. So if you feel like you are behind, it's okay, take your time. Even if I move on to the next section, you know exactly what to do. So no need to rush and finish. Make each line the best line you can do at that moment. And if you are quick and if you are done with this section, please take a moment to appreciate what you just did before we move on to the next section. And maybe as you look at your finished drawing, finished tangle, you may see a spot that you missed filling in. Perhaps you can go over with your ink, black ink, to make this ink-filled space a little more solid. Just give extra love, extra touch. And if you are waiting, I always encourage my student to wait gracefully, because we are so bad at waiting. We get so impatient sometimes, but waiting is a beautiful thing to practice. Perhaps you can take a few deep breaths as you wait. I'm almost done. And this is the one challenge we have teaching on Zoom is I have no way of knowing how far everybody is. You know, if anybody's lagging way behind, or a lot of people are waiting, it's hard for me to gauge. So I'm gonna give you a little, maybe a minute or so to finish up what you're doing, but I'm gonna have to use my pace as a standard as I lead this class, since we have limited time today. But if you're not done with this section, don't worry, you know exactly what to do. But when I give you a cue to move on to the next section, I want you to come along with me so that you don't feel lost. Again, there's no mistake. Just enjoy the process, enjoy the journey you're taking today.
Tomomi, a question
yes.
came up. Do we outline the rock with pen?
No, not yet. Thank you. No, we're not outlining the rock with a pen. Sorry, I shouldn't say not yet. We will not outline the rock. So like I said, each of these patterns are called tangle, right, in Zentangle. And each tangle has name. And tangle names don't really mean anything, but they do have names. So I'm gonna give you the name as we go. And if you wanna write down on a piece of paper or back of your paper, back of your bookmark, that's fine too. So this one is called Diva Dance. Tangle number 1 is called Diva Dance. And I see a question, can I draw more than 5 rocks? Yes, you can. But in today's class, I'm only going to show you 5 tangles. So however extra rocks that you have, you either pick some other tangles from books or online, or just repeat the same tangle. Okay, let's move on to the second rock. So this was tangle number 1, this was diva dance. We'll move on to second rock. So even if you're not done with first rock, let's move on to second rock. So on the second rock, this is a single stroke tangle. So your pen never leaves paper. Got to zoom in just a little more so that you can see. So I'm going to start somewhere. Anywhere is fine. Just pick up starting point. I'm going to start maybe like right here. And we're going to add squiggly line. Sorry, I said your pen never leaves, but since I'm showing, I have to lift my pen. But this is a single stroke, so you add a squiggly line. And you just continue to add these squiggly line going this way and that way, never touching. See how my squiggly lines are never touching, but filling the gap, you can see. So these can be a little short at some places. This can be a little long at some places. Just adding a little texture to the surface. See how they're not touching. If there's any tight space, I'm going to squeeze the line. Just make it look fun. Taking your line this way and that way. This is super relaxing. So none of the lines are touching or crossing. That's the only thing you're paying attention to. Any kind of line is fine. Sorry, I almost went off camera. So if you have to lift your pen to give your hand a little break, that's fine too. But just remember, this is a single stroke tangle. So always pick up where you lift your pen. Just like that. That looks like a brain. So this one is called a maze. Oh yeah, somebody said it looks like a brain. That's funny. Yeah, it looks like a brain. But it's different though. Different people draw this single line differently. So if yours doesn't look like brain, there's nothing wrong with that. Because your line may have more corners, more pointy spots. So the first one is called diva dance, and second one is called a maze. And make sure that you're not holding your breath. Sometimes when we are drawing line, our hands get tight, or our posture gets slouchy. So each time you finish your rock, check your posture. Check to make sure you're not holding your pen too tight. And then we're going to move on to next rock. And at any point, as we are filling these rocks, if you feel like, maybe I need to adjust the shape of this rock. This is too small. This is just pencil line, make it bigger. You may change your mind as you go, right? So let's go to this third rock. We're moving on. In third rock, we're going to add this beautiful swirls. So I'll give you a few options. So it's very simple. Just this nice little swirls. So depending on how tight you coil these swirls, of course, the tighter the swirls, tighter the coil is, the more focus that you need to have. But you see how you have completely different look. And if you want to challenge yourself today, I challenge you to swirl in opposite direction. And you can experience this like strange sensation that I feel on my hand and also my brain when I swirl in opposite direction. So you can swirl tightly or you can swirl loosely. And I want you to close this. Like you see how at the end, when I'm done, I'm closing this. So I'm gonna fill this space with these cute little swirls. And I'm not making it too big because it's a really small space. So I'm adding small swirls. And they don't have to be all in the same size. But I want them to be touching each other, kissing each other. They like each other. They're not socially distanced. They want to be close to each other. There's going to be little gaps like this. That's okay, but make sure at least there's at least a little bit of connection between these swirls. They're not going to fit in perfectly. You can make some of them bigger, some of them smaller. Just squeeze them in and try not go outside the pencil line. Just stay inside. So today we're staying inside the pencil line because we're trying to create this stacked rock look. But when we do more traditional Zentangle, it is okay to go over pencil line, go outside of pencil line. I always tell my student that pencil lines are just suggestion, not demand. But today is a little different. So try to stay inside the pencil line. If you go a little bit outside, it's not a big deal. And don't be discouraged if your swirls don't look as nice as you hoped. They look easy, but they are deceivingly difficult to do. Because you need to be able to draw your line in every direction when you do this kind of swirly pattern. So Take your time. Make each of them look really nice, nicely coiled. And once you squeeze enough of them in this rock, I want you to fill these spaces that's left with your black ink. So as you fill in with black ink, so we're not quite outlining the edges of rock, but I guess you can kind of have to decide where the edge is. But it's okay if your edges are not smooth, because like I said, we're not really outlining the edges. We're just filling these spaces, in between spaces. And you can see how by adding these, adding ink to these little spaces, how it adds a little bit of drama, a lot more contrast. So when you are drawing with your ink, black and white drawing, the more black you add, more drama, more boldness that you have. So it's something to keep in mind. Because some people like more dramatic look and some people like softer look. And don't miss the tiny, tiny spaces in between these coils. And this third pattern is called a pranton. And make sure that you didn't miss any little space in between. And this one is called printemps. I think it's a French word for spring. And take a moment to feel this in-between space nice and solid. No need to rush. And as we get closer to the top, rocks are getting smaller, so it goes even faster. So if you feel like your rocks are too small, you can always adjust the size. I'm gonna make these next one a little big. I think mine is a little too small. So the next one, see some people still heads down drawing, so I'll give you a moment to finish this section. Yep. And if you are waiting, just take a moment to appreciate what you have done so far. we've already learned 3 tangles in last, what, like 30, 35 minutes, 40 minutes? That's pretty remarkable. We're going this in pretty good pace. So if you've already finished 3 rocks, you are rocking. You're doing good. So take a moment to appreciate. And then in a minute or so, we'll do the next rock. And if you are waiting, just give your hand a little massage, a little stretch. Because your hands can get a little tight as you draw so much. You know, I do a lot of drawing, so I can do this, you know, hours straight. But you know, honestly, we don't use pen. We don't write as much as we used to. So some muscles has gotten weaker over the years with all the typing and using the cell phone. So your hand may feel a little exhausted. So you want to give a little massage if you're waiting. So let's go to the next section. So on the next rock, I want you to start with nice straight-ish line. So just anywhere is fine. Just from the edge to edge. Don't forget the word staying inside pencil line. From the edge to edge, just add a nice straight line, any direction. And then we'll add another straight line, any direction, crossing. This is so funny to me. Like when I tell adults to add a straight line, they just look at what I'm doing, like which direction, how long. No, just add a straight line. It really doesn't matter. So just add a straight line at a time. Just continue to add random directions. My only ask is to stay inside the pencil line. And because this is such a small space, perhaps maybe like 6, 7 lines. I'm not really counting, but I don't want to make too small spaces, but maybe I'll add one more here, something like this. Very random, no logic whatsoever. And then in each space, this is what we're going to do. So let's start with the space somewhere in the middle. So I have something that looks like a triangle. You may have different shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace over this line. You see my pen is going over, and as I get closer to corner, I'm going to round the corner, and I trace and round the corner and trace and around the corner. So you see how it looks like I squeezed a nice bubble inside this triangle. So you can do this, and here, just trace and around the corner. And every time I get close to the corner, instead of going all the way to the corner, I'm cutting with the rounded line like this. So trace the shape and round the corner. And as you get closer to the edge, you can either trace the pencil line or you can leave them open like this. Either works just fine. So if I leave them open, it's gonna look like this. If I close them, I have complete shape like this. So I'm not adding new shape, I'm tracing over the existing line and rounding the corner and continuing to trace over. So you're not adding new shape or new line per se, you're just going over the line that you already have. And each time you get closer to the corner, you round it. This adds a really interesting texture to your rock. And mine look like this. And if you want to, this is optional. If you want to, you can fill in these in between spaces. That will add a little more drama. This is optional. So you can leave them blank or you can fill them with black ink. This one is called Crazy and Zippo. What's nice about filling with black ink, like what I'm doing, is if there's anything that I don't like let's say, for example, right here, I feel like, oh, I know this little shape is a little too small. I'm just gonna cover with my black ink. So you can do that. Black ink is powerful, it covers everything. So this is Crazy and Zippo. And then last one. Last one is super simple. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the last one because anybody can do this even without any instruction. So inside this last pebble, we're just gonna fill in with even smaller pebbles. But when you draw pebbles, I want you to take time and make each one look nice. So instead of adding quick circle like this, when you draw, I want you to go like nice round pebble. You see the difference? This is a quick drawing. This is more intentional drawing. You're trying to create an orb. So you're gonna fill this with a bunch of orbs. And then you can make them all same sizes. You can make them tiny. You can make them into different sizes. It's up to you. And as you get closer to the edge, you can squeeze a small one or you can put a part of big one. You see, I can, like right here, I can put a little one or I can go half of big one. Just try to squeeze as tightly as you can. Even more so than what we did with Printemps. And perhaps some of the tiny orbs. You know, if you want to, you can make it into black one. That's the option. You can make some black orbs. Make each orb look nice and round. It's not going to be a perfect circle, but draw a nice round orbs. So this one, last one is called tipple. And then once you are done with this section, you can put a cap onto your pen. And we'll do a little bit of shading, but we're not going to do too much shading today. We'll keep it very, very simple. But just to review, we did these 5 tangles today. And there's no mistake in Zentangle. That's the most important thing. There's no mistake in art, period. Right? Anything you're doing is beautiful. So, looks like some people still drawing. Just put down your pen once you are done, and we'll switch to pencil. We'll switch to pencil. And then I think on the supply list, I asked you to bring a Q-tip. And if you have one of these handy dandy blending tool, of course you can and you should use these. These are called blending stump or tortillon. It's a paper tool that we use for drawing. So let's switch to pencil. We'll do quick shading. So when you do shading, I ask you to not hold your pencil down, straight down like this. I want you to hold your pencil like this, almost parallel to the paper. So using the tip and the side of the graphite. So with a gentle pressure, today we're just gonna do this sort of shading, overall shape. So I'm going around the outline of rock to give a little definition. So it's not a pen line, it's a pencil drawn edges. So we started with pencil, and we're gonna keep this really nice and soft by just adding a nice pencil edge. This is not a line, this is a shading that we're doing. I want you to leave the center or the middle of the rock untouched. So once you go all the way around, you can switch to your Q-tip or your blending stump, and you gently tease out this graphite, going in a circular motion. And if you're using Q-tip, and if this is a brand new Q-tip, you may notice that the Q-tip is gonna lift up your graphite and make it look much, much lighter than you started. And if it's too light, just go back in and add more graphite and make it a little darker and continue teasing out and making this edge nice and soft, but well controlled. You don't want to go outside of the edges, and you want to leave the middle white. You see how this adds dimension to your rock? And you repeat the same process. Like this Tangle Amaze doesn't give you clear edge, but you have the pencil drawn line that we started with to guide you where the shading goes. So always use the gentle pressure, go around the rock all the way. Now you can do this on each rock, or you can just do the pencil on every single rock and go back in with your Q-tip or blending stump, whichever you prefer. Oftentimes, or most of the times, I add shading to each tangle. But today, because we're working in this really tiny space, we're just going to focus on shading each rock instead of shading each tangle. So just going to add this overall shading that's going to give your pebbles nice dimension. So the most important thing is to stay inside the rock, don't go outside, and leave the middle untouched. And when you are done with your shading, and like here, I did go outside a little bit, and if that bothers you, just use a little bit of eraser and pick up what you don't need. Just give extra love. And going back and forth a few times with your pencil, your blending tool to get the desired darkness, desired amount of shading. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. And then just take a moment to look before you do anything else. Take a moment to look at your entire piece and to see if there's anything you want to add, or you want to not like change, but like to make it look a little nicer or a little more finished. Like right here, I feel like this rock and this rock is not quite touching. So I'm gonna add a little more graphite here to fix that, because I want these rocks to be stacked nicely. And then go back in with your pen, and then you can add your little signature or chalk if you want to. I encourage you to do so, because this is really a confident building if you sign your own artwork. But if you don't feel like it, I'm not going to force you. Perhaps you want to sign on the back of the card, or perhaps you want to add little, like some words to like each rock that symbolizes each tangles that you added, or some of the things that you are grateful for today. You can do a lot of things with this, but I'm going to go ahead and add a little signature of mine. And this is my bookmark today. And if you want to, this is completely optional. You can make it into nice bookmark like this by gluing this one onto something slightly bigger. You see how having this frame like really add drama and makes your drawing look more finished. So you can do this, and you can add a little punch hole here and add a little ribbon here, and you have bookmark like this. So thank you for drawing with me. And we always in Zentangle, we started with this gratitude, right? We always begin with gratitude, and we always end with gratitude and appreciation. So this is a big class, so I'm not going to be able to ask everybody to show what you did, but in my class, I typically do this, but just take a moment at where you are. Just take a moment to appreciate what you just created. It is beautiful, and you're going to enjoy, and perhaps you can use this bookmark with the books that um, you borrow from the library. That's perfect, right?
Yes.
And perhaps you want to give as a gift. But anyways, thank you so much for tangling with me, and I hope to see you again. And I think we have, well, we're right at noon, and we have Q&A if you want to stay. And Vicky, I will hand it back to you.
Sure. Thank you. This was wonderful. And finally, just thanks again to Newcastle Arts Council for sponsoring this program for KCLS today. Thank you so much for everyone who joined us all around the world. It was fantastic seeing all the locations you were tuning in from. I'm going to stop the recording now, and we have a little time for Q&A. If you want to pop those in chat,